All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You wanna know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Nico, and I'm joined by Alice.
I'm here to fight some fascists.
Hell yeah, and Brian.
Hey guys, did Homestuck make this world?
Oh boy. This time around, we're discussing a game with a whole new approach to beating your meat, Extreme MEATPUNKS Forever. Let's launch into it. Yeah, Brian.
Proud of that one, huh?
No, I'm great. I'm here.
I tried to come up with a better one, but there is a specter haunting Nico, and it was beating your meat joke.
I'm glad we got it out of the way.
Man, a beating your meat joke never even actually occurred to me. That's astounding.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, so.
You're both without sin. So, Extreme MEATPUNKS Forever is a visual novel and lightweight top-down combat game released in August 2018. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to experience the full story, but I think just like based on how it's constructed, if you wanted to kind of get everyone's story, you could spend, I don't know, like 5 or 6 hours with this game.
Yeah, there's a few different, there's a lot. I had to go back a couple of times because I did want to see, there's very specific parts where it's not that it gates you from certain characters' stories, but it's just a different option.
Yeah.
We have to talk about who we shipped.
We will get there. This game is called Season 1. It has a sequel, Extreme MEATPUNKS Forever Bound by Ash, which was released in October 2020. There's also a tabletop role-playing game set in Meat World, which was kickstarted, and it has a lot of incredible art.
Sorry, the setting for this is Meat World?
It's
That's the
Meat World.
official set. Okay.
Can I show
All
you
right.
something really important?
Yes.
I'm sorry. No, I will find it and pull it up on a break. I need you to understand that the map of the Meat World is the United States turned 90 degrees.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Because I was like, how seriously should I take this world building? And I looked at the map and it took me a second because they redrew some line. But I was like, is this the United States tilted 90 degrees? Anyway, this is the first part we're getting into. That was released in 2018. What did y'all know about Extreme MEATPUNKS Forever before we played it?
I didn't know this existed. There's a problem with itch.io where there's just a never-ending sea of media and beautiful little indie games and indie darlings that I don't think I'll ever get through all of them. Mm-hmm. So until you brought this to the table, I probably never would have come across this game.
Yeah. What about you, Bri?
I had seen the words together capitalized like that in tweets and such.
You had heard of it in the lore of Twitter.
I had nothing really to bring to it. I didn't even know until I launched the game and was in it. I didn't even know what it would look like or what it would really play like. I thought it for a second I thought it was only a tabletop game for a little while.
Really?
But I don't know. I sometimes I'll get approximate knowledge of an object online, and that will be it, and it will just be in my brain that way. And then when it's it turns out there's this whole other angle, or I was on the side path or whatever, I'm just oh.
I've been on the periphery of this already. I've by osmosis consumed some of Extreme
MEATPUNKS. I've seen this passing by on a nearby ship, and I thought
a ship passing in the night. Extreme MEATPUNKS Forever.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I was at too. The version of this that I have, I got through I think it was the bundle for racial justice that was on itch.io a while back that had 1 million games.
Yeah.
That explains why I already owned this, because when I went to itch.io to buy it, it was you have this, and I'm like, I do.
For the listener, I need you to go to itch.io if you have an account and open it. You probably have this game, and that's actually kind of funny. And you know what it made me think of? How like Solitaire was preloaded on PCs for a long time. I know it's not the same, but like if you cared about racial justice and like it had to be after 2018, so it must have been like the 2020. I hate that I get like the 2014 revolt mixed up with like the 2020
time long
incidents. But anyway, if you ever supported a bundle for racial justice, you own this game and you should play it.
It keeps happening for some reason that we still have to do things for this.
Yeah, it's wild that this, keeps
Great
being...
pick for it, though. I actually heard that this comes bundled with certain versions of Linux.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I feel like this just needs to be bundled with some kind of software package. That's like, okay, great.
Oh, I thought you were saying that as if that was a fact. I was like, that's interesting because on the site, they're like, we have no idea how this game runs on Linux. Like, good luck.
See, we got to find out so that we can install it to come with Linux. So I had seen the cover art for it, which is a pretty iconic image of this like grizzly meated figure.
Yeah.
Reclining on kind of a desert surface. I had seen that plenty of times. And this is something we're going to be talking about throughout this episode, which is snobbery, cringe, and earnesty, I think.
Ernestina.
I had looked at it many times and kind of went, I have a vibe about what this is. This is probably like some real... The word that came to mind for me was like gutter punk, but literally there's a meat punk manifesto that exists. And like, this is probably some real online stuff.
It's cringecore.
Even as online as I was kind of like, I don't know that I want to spend time with this, which I think was a mistake, because I think I enjoyed this game now, but I think there are times in my life where this game would have been like transcendent for me. And I hate that I missed it, like getting in as early as I could with it. For all of the things that it is, I do wish that I had killed the part of me that cringed and clicked that beautiful meat boy.
Rolled that beautiful meat footage.
Roll that beautiful meat footage. Stick the spike in your neck.
Yep. Can you imagine if you stuck a neural spike in your neck and then you just saw a Bush's Beans commercial?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Sorry.
It's that dog running around talking psychically to you.
It's
but
that
you're
apron.
in a flesh meat mech.
I've seen the face of God and it was weeping and it's just the Bush's Beans dog.
I think coming to this game in the year of our Lord 2023 is actually a great thing because we are now in a post-cringe society.
Are we?
We have moved past, I don't know about you guys.
Alice is living in the future.
I have to say at the jump, I had some work to do when I first started playing this in terms of like, it kind of hit me like a brick. For some reason, I don't know if I want to say like, it just wasn't quite what I was expecting. I think in terms of the earnesty, that kind of caught me off guard. And I found myself like having a reaction I'm not necessarily proud of, but I mean, the game has so many cool ideas. We should get into it.
Yeah, I should actually do the summary. I realized because we're like already discussing it.
Let's do a summary of this because it for what ostensibly was a 2-hour game.
Literally 3 things happen.
Yeah, it's like, but they're good. But yeah, summary, and then we can get into it.
Submarine.
So I wrote something that's probably too long again.
That's
because
fine.
I'm me. So what I'm going to do is having written it and presumably absorbed my own concept of this game's story summary, I'm going to now try to regurgitate it, only referencing the summary.
So is this like when you're giving a presentation and there's text on the screen, but you can't read the text exactly because you'll get an F?
Yeah.
So you're like pulling from it and glancing over, but you're like, I can't say it exactly that way, but I wrote it so well.
Yeah, I'm going to do that instead of what I did last time, which is just stand and read my book report.
My report on Extreme Meat Punks Forever by Nico.
Oh my God, you know what I forgot in this intro? I totally forgot. It's Halloween. When this pod drops, it is Halloween. This is the Halloween episode. I chose it because it's ooey gooey.
Spooky.
You know what's funny?
Yes.
I posted today about how it was spooky season and how it's a good time to buy Extreme Meat Punks Forever and about like why that was our horror pick. And Heather Flowers, like, I'm going to say it because it's what they say, hosted it and was like, I'm not sure I would consider Extreme Meat Punks Forever horror. And then they were like, recounts moment in second game that we haven't gotten to yet that I'm not going to say, but is horrifying sounding. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's fair. And I'm like, I really want to play that second game. We should definitely cover it.
Oh, I definitely want to cover it.
I had to stop myself from jumping immediately into the second game because I didn't want it to cloud my recounting of this because I just
that's
wanted
exactly
to keep
why
going.
I didn't do that either.
And I mean, I could talk about why I picked this for the Halloween game. It's because SAG-AFTRA is on strike, and I wanted to do Aliens, but they won't let me have Ripley's cargo loader.
Get away from her, you bitch!
We wanted to do A**ENs,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't let us have S** Gorny Weavers.
They wouldn't let us have her loader. No, and that was going to be a reach anyway.
There's a lot in this game that's about the horrors of war, too.
There's a lot to this game, but like, again, like before I played it very surface level, I was like, listen, I've kind of dined out on being the meat mech person, and I didn't mean to make that. That was a little on the nose.
That was spicy, is what that was.
So you're the meat mech person. I'm the mass-produced version. Brian, what's your flavor of mech?
That's such a good... I don't know.
See, I always think of you with the good color palettes. Whenever I see a mech now that has a good color palette, I'm like, there's Brian.
This is something it's time to be vulnerable on the pod.
Open yourself to us.
This is something I talked about on the episode we'll never air.
Mm-hmm.
But as a designer, one of the ways I conceive of color palettes is I think, would this look good on a mech? And if it does, then I use those colors.
Yeah, that's why I think of you. So that's where you're at. You're the color palette, and I'm the meat.
I'm so sorry. Let's get to the summary.
No, listen,
this.
You know what?
Sorry.
We freewheeling. It's Halloween out here.
We're messy today. It's Halloween.
Spooky,
I'm jacked up on Reese's.
What's everybody's costume? This is theater of the mind. People can't see us.
You guys go first. What's your costume?
I
know mine.
Ask me.
I know mine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm ready.
I'm doing Scientist Yzma
Oh yeah!
from Emperor's New Groove.
Fantastic.
I'm the contraption that killed Shinzo Abe.
Are you?
That's what I'm dressed as for Halloween.
I was instantly mummified on the spot by the words you just said to me.
You know what? Go as a legend. That's what they say. In real life and in the theater of the mind of this podcast, I'm dressed as what I described to my very brave partner before they put their head in their hands as the installation wizard. I have a wizard costume, and I have a poster board, and it's an install shield prompt, and I'm wearing a CD like a medallion.
That is the best costume I've ever heard.
It's
honestly.
not an original idea, but I realized that the one costume I've ever wanted.
Is it not? Oh, that's sad. But I still like it.
No, but there's some great photos, especially from the 90s, of people as like various types of installation wizards. I've seen a man with a mouse wrapped around a staff. Like,
that's so dope.
As if it had been crucified.
Now that I think about it, I guess, yeah, it is kind of obvious.
But no, I've seen a lot of different versions of it, but mostly I've wanted for a long time to have a wizard costume.
A wizard.
This feels weird to admit. I feel like I'm admitting something here.
I mean, I'm currently in the midst of sewing a cape because I've always wanted a Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master cape. So live your truth. We're in a post-cringe society.
Are wizards gender? I feel like wizards are so gender.
Wizards are a gender on Tumblr specifically, which feels very relevant to today's episode.
What?
I'm not a wizards as an animal wizard gender person, but I wanted the goofy old purple or blue robe with the stars and moons on it, the pointy hat, no brim. We are out here, no brim.
Oh.
And a big gray wig with big gray beard. And then I was like, if I get myself this, which I'm actually making part of it, if I make myself this, how am I going to spin it in a way that is not just me admitting at a Halloween party that I've always wanted to be a wizard costume? Not even a wizard, I just wanted the costume.
You know, you don't have to tell people how you came to a costume. You don't have to say, I've been planning to be a wizard my whole life. I've been a virgin until 30 so I could gain these powers.
Yeah. Are you like are the Playboy bunnies like, oh, I've been dreaming of this since I was 8?
You know
the
what?
Slutty Little Red Riding Hood that's skipping down the road.
I could go to a Spirit Halloween right now and find this exact same costume, and you could literally just say, I picked this up tonight before the party.
I'm in.
No, that's fair. They don't need to know the contours of my soul.
Hey, what's the summary of Extreme Meatpunks Forever?
Tell me the events of this game. That's extremely heterosexual.
Yeah, it's really het game.
Extreme Meatpunks Forever is the story of 4 young adults. Well, I thought it was 4 young adults. It's 4 adults at the intersections of a lot of different identities. They've all been alienated from life in Meat World, which, as previously mentioned, is the United States rotated 90 degrees. But no, it's a version of our world with a major difference, which is that a lot of the technology, it's made of meat. We got scream sirens on cop cars. We got farm tools made of meat. For some reason, we've got radio diode crystals, which I'm just down for. Fuck it. Let's put those in the meat. So yeah, like that's a strangeness of technology, but it doesn't change much about the reality of everyday life. And we meet one of the 4 meat punks that we're going to get to know very well. Sam, who is at a bar with a friend, lamenting his life, working on a farm in this small town of Sundown, being one of only 2 gay people that he knows. And the other, who he's celebrating with, is moving away to the city because life can be shitty, but at least there might be more gay people there. Unfortunately, during their conversation, they are provoked and end up in a fight with Fash, which I believe this is both a football team, a political ideology, and a generic descriptor for evil NPCs, which feels... I do like that it's a football team. I almost missed that I started a replay and I'm like, wait, was the football team that the Blood Masons were playing against?
Some might call the NFL fascist.
Alice, we'll turn to you for that incisive coverage. But anyway, they get in an argument in this bar and decide to duke it out outside. Unfortunately, the friend who picked the fight is too drunk to fight it, so Sam hops in his mech, which is a flesh monstrosity that he uses for farming, because that's normal. So it's the John Deere of meat heaps, and he goes to town on this Fash.
Goes to town on it.
Yeah, after they knock him out, they realize they need to hit the bricks because Fash are connected to the police and they can already hear the screen sirens coming, so they take off into the night. When we next see people, it is a totally new pair of characters. We meet Cass, who's a disaffected retail worker stocking shelves in a sundown shop, along with fiery and abrasive coworker, Liana. Liana disrupts Cass's existential angst with an off-the-wall idea. She wants to start a chapter of the anti-fascist meat punks in Sundown. She's put up flyers directing people to the church basement, which made me laugh because I'm like, yeah, when you have one large room in town.
It's the church community center. I want to be very clear.
Church community center, yeah. When you have one large gathering place in town, it is the church community center. She's put up flyers and she insists that Cass should join her. There they meet Sam, who's come based on the flyers, and they also meet the enthusiastic but naive newcomer, Brad. The 4 chat and get to know each other at the meeting, but when they try to leave, they're met by a huge crowd of Fash, who apparently can also read flyers. They are led by their valiant leader and Alice's special little guy for this episode, Hat Fash.
Don't put that one on me, but I love Hat Fash.
Who is a Fash with a hat. He challenges them, and you can choose one of the 4 meat punks to hop in their rig and go to town on this Fash. And depending on who you do, you get some insight into the characters. Once you've beaten him up, you realize that Hat Fash was none other than the sheriff's son, Jimmy? I think it was Jimmy. I'm trying to remember. It's the most innocuous man's name in the world. Anyway, it's Jimmy, the sheriff's son. And that means you are quadruple screwed and you need to get out of town before the cops find you because Hat Fash is going to fill them in on what's happened. So they take off across the plains, the desert, outside of Sundown, headed vaguely north in the direction of the town of Hopeful. As they cross the desert, they get into all sorts of various strange encounters, a lot of fights with Fash near the settled areas, and then once they get out of settled areas, some weirder encounters happen. And along the way, a major part of this story is the interactions you can have among the meat punks. This is where your play style can either either you want to do a really thorough exploration of this game, or you're going to get a lot of little snapshots of people, because you can choose based on who takes point in the day's travel and based on what conversations you decide to get involved in the evenings, kind of who you're focusing on, who the camera is focusing on, and you'll learn more or less about their stories. So I'll say in my run, like my main run that I did, I focused a lot on Cass, so I got a lot more of Cass's story and Cass's relationships to the other meat punks. Whereas if you followed Brad more closely, say, you would get more of his story. I definitely think this is a game that would reward both a scattershot approach and going through each story. So like a visual novel, it's got a lot of replayability to kind of gather all of the little details about the meat punks. So after having a series of random encounters, which can also include a guy who Brad initially describes as a youth pastor, but turns out to be a sun cultist, a strange figure from Cass's past, heavily armored, a kind of prepper guy who is asking people, when do you hear thunder? And a literal doppelganger at one point. They go through various trials and travails. There's a huge blowout fight between Brad and Liana that seems like it's going to divide the group in two, but helps them grow closer because they come to respect each other. And during the travels, they notice that the light in the sky, which a casual observer might think is the sun.
Not so fast, motherfucker!
It's just the bright. It's just a light. It is not the sun. It is just the light that fills the sky, and it begins to malfunction. A little earlier, I don't know, did either of y'all play without the sun cultist? Did you ditch the sun cultist on any of you? Okay.
First run, I ditched him.
Do you get the background on what is up with the sun and what sun cultists believe? Or, like, is that a conversation the meat punks have, or do you miss that if you ditch the sun cultist?
You get pieces of it.
Yeah.
It comes up. Brad kind of fills in the dots, mostly as a former member of the church.
Okay, that's good. That's cool, because I did not get that Brad was a former member, because I had this guy and he did all the expositing. So if you have the sun cultist, he will explain to you that the sun was gone one day, and sun cultists are deeply suspicious about what it did. They believe that it's a creator god that made humanity and then now thinks it's a mistake and is concocting a plan to then wipe humanity out. And so sun cultists believe it is their sacred duty to find evidence of the sun's nefarious plan. The sun, which they often refer to as the bastard orb. So you get all this information. The literal light in the sky is starting to malfunction. And as you near the town of Hopeful, more Fash are starting to show up again. There seems to be a high concentration of them until you get to the scene of a massacre and you finally make contact with the Hopeful meat punks. And they have a special mission for the meat punks that have arrived from sundown. They're pretty battered because of all the Fash that have been gathering in their town lately, and they need help investigating a nearby mountain, which they have figured out has been sending a signal that correlates to the malfunctions with the light in the sky, and it turning off and on and doing weird colors, including at one point bisexual lighting, which was very funny. And so they ask the Sundown Meat Punks to head up there and see what's going on, where they have a climactic showdown. And we'll talk about the details of that later on. But there is a climactic showdown that ends in a terrible cataclysm, which sets the scene for season 2 of Extreme Meat Punks Forever. And with that, we will go to the break. Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show. We can get right back into it because clearly we all have thoughts on it, but let's talk about the first impressions of Extreme Meat. I keep wanting to say Super Meat Boy, and I hate that little motherfucker for doing this to me. Your first impressions of Extreme Meat Punks Forever.
Something I love about visual novels. When you launch a visual novel, you get a config screen about how you want it to launch, and I just always love that. That's it. Yeah. That's the thought. I want to say art style took me back real fast. Mm-hmm. I also liked that. So when you first launch the game, you get your options, and one of the options is literally characters, and you can just scroll through the characters, which is the first thing I did. And I was like, who are all of these people? it was weird to read about all of them and then go through and like one of the characters is an eldritch horror teenager who works at a convenience store who's literally just there for one scene.
Yeah.
And that's it. But she's listed as one of the characters. And I'm like, wish I could have her in my group with her eldritch horror mech.
Yeah, she's really trying. But yeah, no, when you go through the characters, you can meet them before you even start the game, which is interesting because I think one of the better reveals in the game is when you kind of learn the names of the mechs. And you think you know what you're in for, and you don't know what you're in for. I feel like you don't know what you're in for until you get Ultra Brad. But Brian, you mentioned your first impression was really strong, and you had to kind of do some work on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, so my first impression was like so I really love the ASCII art in this. Like, I was immediately charmed by that. Like, that my first impression was actually like pretty unrestrained joy because
yeah, the bar that you first see and a lot of the backgrounds, like all of it is like colored ASCII art, which is really cool.
Yeah, which for if you kids online don't know, only fucking know emojis anymore. ASCII art is art that basically just uses like the symbols on the keyboard to create larger images. So like if you've ever read like a GameFAQs article, they always have a huge logo or whatever of ASCII art at the start of those. Beautifully composed. So this game is just ASCII art and gradients, but they're like somehow both really simple and like the gradients, the colors are all really, really well executed. Everything is just like so evocative and weird and janky and like such a like put together stylistic way. What I had a strong reaction to that I mentioned was just like the writing immediately. I made a joke about Homestuck earlier, but like I do think this is very, even if the creator wasn't directly influenced by it, like this is so much a product of the internet language that Homestuck had such a huge part in creating, at least in my opinion. I don't know if you agree, Nico, as the other Homestuck person.
Yeah, we're erasing Alice for once. Alice is now the outsider like I am with Gundam.
Proud to be an outsider on Homestuck, guys. Proud to take that stance for this pod.
That needs to be in our merch, is proud to be an outsider on
Proud to be an outsider on Homestuck, guys. But yeah, no, I feel like Homestuck is in the water. So even if it's not one of those things where you can kind of trace point A to point B, oh, this was one of the contributing artists, so this was one of the contributing musicians.
I mean, it's like little things like, you know, all the characters have a typing quirk, all the characters are color coded, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think something very important to point out is they give a lot of characterization in how the dialogue is literally just typed. Like, you meet Sam talks in proper sentences with proper punctuation, and he's a gay black man working a farm. And then you meet his friend, who is the only other gay in town, who is Jason, who is currently drunk, and he's when I knew I loved this game. And he is just, his text is going up and down and everywhere, and he's wooing.
Yeah, that was part of my initial reaction. I do think it, I won't talk about this forever, but I think the reason I had also that thought originally too was because the drunk dude, it has 1000% Dave Schrader energy, and Sam 1000% has John Egbert energy. They're blue and red even. Like, they have the same typing style. And so it was interesting how, and like I said, it departs from this and it takes a whole different tone, which was really, really, that was one of its really big strengths, was its ability to kind of like submerse you really quickly in what this was going to be without like, you know, expositing for hours at you like some, like, you know, lesser visual novels will just talk at you forever.
They just lean in.
Yeah. This has a world and it exists, and they drop in things like corn screaming, which
corn screaming. Corn screaming.
That's why this is the Halloween pick.
As somebody from a small town, that's a real thing. So
Alice, will you go corn screaming for us?
We don't have corn here. We got soy.
Oh.
It's not as fun because they ain't tall.
My fiance is from Iowa, and I guarantee that we'll have an opportunity to corn scream at some point in our existences together.
Sometimes you gotta go corn screaming.
I just wanted real quick on the kind of, oh, this feels like Homestuck and everything. What it feels like to me is like this is a visual novel that is very much embracing and exhibiting online identity formation, because what informed Homestuck was forums culture, right? Was something awful. It came out of those spaces where you had a handle, you had an icon, and you had the way you typed, basically, to get to know people. You know, Dave is a forums cool guy from Homestuck, right? Like, that's his kind of thing. And those people still exist. As someone who never types with punctuation unless I have to for work, I kind of adopted that too. And I think that's funny because I think that kind of stuff is almost an inheritance, because it informed Homestuck, which was a lot of people's big exposure of it, but it also helped inform the creation of so many social web spaces and the older users who were in them when younger users were coming in. And this game really shows, like, I know some of my mutuals just by icon. I've never seen their face. I know certain people by usernames, and I know when certain people are serious based on whether or not they're typing like they always do when they post, or whether they're typing formally, or like if there's a
typing
difference.
In customer service voice.
Exactly. I love that there's a moment where customer service voice is called out in this game, because it's a form of the term is code switching, right? But like this game, in compressing so much identity into color coding, and just the images that you get of the characters in a visual novel are obviously going to be limited, but like just their default standing image, the way that they type, there's scare quotes around that because they are talking in the game. And then the information you get about the names of their mechs, as I mentioned earlier, like that is kind of key information. And it's the same kind of key information I feel like you would be operating on if you met these people online. Like if this was normal world, not meat world, if you met them.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And I think that's been adopted. Whether or not you can wholly attribute it to Homestuck, I don't think I really don't want to give the world to Andrew Hussey. So getting back into the realm of more relatable stuff, another major topical thing was we were 2 years into the Trump presidency.
Oh,
which
God,
I feel
that's
like
so huge in this, I feel like.
It informs this way more. I had to put myself in that headspace again, right? Because we have been lulled by 3 years. Alice never left. Alice lives there. Alice lives in the negative zone that is the Trump presidency mentally. But like, I feel like we've kind of been lulled a little bit by 3 years of mostly mid
complacency. Yeah.
But there was a terrible energy to those years.
There was a terrible energy to those years. That's really, really true.
So
and like,
I think it's interesting that you come at this with a Homestuck take on it, because a lot of what I leaned in on in how I interpreted this media is the punk and meat punk.
Yeah.
Punk and counterculture, I feel, really comes through in this. And I don't know where the writer's background is with punk culture and counterculture, but I mean, beating up fash has always been punk culture. We would go to shows, and if somebody came in and they had anything that was, you know, Nazi dog whistle, we beat that motherfucker up. We jump him. He's not allowed in our spaces. And
I did not know this about you, Alice, and I am learning it. You're the old punk.
Yeah, and
you're Cass.
Nah, I wasn't the one jumping. I was the one cheering the jumpers. But a lot of where I see from this is that is where I see that informed, because a lot of that counterculture movement is, you know, in language, and that is where this war is fought, both in language and then actually just beating up fash, which just feels so. They beat up fash, guys. Punch a Nazi.
It's also like a really successfully deployed aesthetic of like being rough around the edges in ways that kind of conform to a solid visual and like even political identity, but are also just like, you know, like spilled gravel, kind of like rough, just sort of unclear boundaries in some ways. Like, you know, what we were just talking about it. What the fuck are fash? They're a social class. They're a fucking football team. They're a government agency. They're a clandestine organization. They're a political leaning.
It's
like,
really great how the game makes them the other.
Like, I do love that.
We are focused in on the meat punks, who are, for all intents and purposes, the smaller minority here.
Yeah.
Fash is the other. They are faceless.
I do have notes about how that does kind of fall away at the end in a way that I don't necessarily understand it. Maybe it'll come back in the second game in a way that kind of retroactively fits those two things together.
Yeah.
But I did really love just kind of like, at least at first, like we can talk about the combat in depth maybe. But at first, I really enjoyed it because it was so easy, and I just loved seeing Fash robots explode.
Let's talk about the gameplay.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I want to circle back real quick. Sorry.
Okay.
I do just want to circle real quick on Fash.
Yeah.
And I had this thought today when I briefly stopped by work and saw an SUV parked with some family stickers, some stuff, and a big Imperial crest from Star Wars on it. The problem with investing a lot of time into representing fascists is that sometimes people get into the fascists. I think that's interesting that this game, like from the jump, from the first scene that you are in, says, these are the characters, these are people that matter, and this is what they're up against. But
I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing to grab hold of in terms of, well, maybe I like the bad guy. Like, maybe Jimmy's got his reasons.
All of the cool character design are characters that are like fundamentally on.
It resists the
There's
impulse.
a certain thing with Feathers really late on that I was really, really jazzed by.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it resists the impulse to give any kind of interesting identity to Fash, because at the end of the day, for the characters that we're
They're
supposed
not even
to
really on
focus
screen. Like,
yeah, they're just an existential threat.
I think of I don't know if this was a thing, like a piece of theory. I definitely heard about it or read it in college at some point, but they were talking about how even if you paint the fascist or the racist in the worst possible ways, they are still on the screen, they are still taking up time, and thus they are still an object as part of the artifice that people will put in their imaginaries. And that class of people, that type of logic is so good at just fitting itself into whatever it can. People will still figure out how to identify with fucking BoJack Horseman.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm thinking about just kids bowing to Kylo Ren at Disneyland. There's a detachment because you can remove characters in pieces that you find interesting, like maybe the uniforms of Nazis, pieces that you find interesting. You can detach it from the ideology, and this game says no. They are faceless, they are featureless, they are a threat, but they are not, you can't get your fingers into them.
The most complicated they get is that this one is bigger than the other ones.
Until they got a really cool leader.
Yeah, until you do get kind of the really cool leader, but I think that's what we'll talk about, Brian, around kind of the confusion at the end about. I will say that, yeah. But yeah, so you go from this bar scene directly into your first fight, and that's when you meet the combat system.
I need to talk about the combat system. So I've played a lot of air hockey in my life, and to have added mechanics to air hockey it's a wonderful thing. So the entire combat mechanic of this is you want to bumper pull the enemy off of a cliff. The Meat Punk world has cliffs everywhere.
They're important.
And that's the only way to kill somebody. You can get knocked down, you can get beaten up. I have a lot of thoughts on the mechanics of it because visual novels will sometimes have, gameplay mechanics to them. This might surprise you. I've played a lot of anime visual novels in my life, a lot of them with combat mechanics in between to pad them out.
Yeah, same here.
Hold on. I got to recover from that. Alice, you've played a lot of anime visual novels?
Guys, did you know that they just released a new Fate visual novel?
Oh, no.
It's actually an action RPG. We'll go through each of the specific mechanics of them, but the idea is you are hitting the enemy and knocking them off a ledge. You're punching.
Always be punching.
And you're bleeding.
You will be going through the specific mechanics of them. I was playing on a laptop.
Oh.
So I quickly began skipping fights, which was to my detriment.
I will say I love that this game gives you the very clear option to skip the fight if you want to. You can just die and skip.
I'll say I also started skipping fights kind of towards the end moments.
What I do hate is that you do start to lose story, though. So you can skip fights, but you will miss confrontations that happen during that kind of...
So what I would do is if I lost, I would skip. Because that way I still got, if any dialogue happened during the fight, I would still get that.
You start, and then you die, and then you can skip. It gives you the option.
Or if the one thing that happens with this system that I think I have to imagine maybe is improved upon in the next volume, where you can just kind of get stuck in a corner for... It can be really fucking agonizing.
If two of them get you pinned down in a corner and you just keep getting disabled,
because you can't die. Nobody can die unless they fall off the cliff. So it can get really. I got really frustrated a couple times. I will say.
Was this developed by? how many people developed this game? Was this a one-person wonder?
It was like 10 people, I think.
So I have the credits in front of us, and so this is something I should have said at the top, actually.
Okay.
Which is the credits behind the people who put this together. Yeah. I'll. So this game, in the credits, they are listed the programming, design, writing, art, and production for the bulk of this work was done by Heather Robertson, who goes by Heather Flowers online.
Good job, Heather.
Shout outs to Heather.
Yep. The character artist was Amy Elaine Zhang, and there's great original music in this game by Visager, and sound effects were done by Manolo Rosenberg.
Oh, another important thing that I should have said about my first impression was that the music of this game rips ass.
It rips.
It does. It's really great
so
music.
Good.
It's really great. That's one thing that it's funny because I feel like nowadays, even though I want to believe wholeheartedly in the Sonic meme, I want worse games made by smaller teams paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding kind of thing. I have inherited a certain visual snobbery and a certain production, level of production snobbery that is probably undoubtedly cutting me off from a lot of great experiences, especially punk experiences, which tend to characteristically not be as concerned with it.
I completely agree. There's a certain level of polish that I'm attached to that's kind of detrimental to my attraction to things.
It's making my life worse, I think, because I got into this game and I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this writing. It's making me feel things about who I was in 2018 and, to be fair, in 2014.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the backgrounds versus the character art that's done, which the character art is, illustrated, there's figures.
It's character art. Actual character
versus,
art,
versus the combat where you've got just kind of little pixel chunks hitting each other.
They're little ASCII meat textured Among Us guys.
Every mech looks the same. Every mech is the exact same.
They are all little meat Among Us.
There's one with a hat that I loved.
There's one with a hat. There's one with horns.
That's bigger. There's a bigger version, but
so hold on. There's one with a hat. There's one with horns. There's one that's bigger. There's one with feathers, and then there's the guy at the end.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, your four main characters are
screen
in the
to
same
screen. The only reason you can
icon.
tell who you are is because you're always effusing this colored stream of nothing, which I actually really like. It's very fun.
I do like the effects in this.
And the thing is, all of this grew on me, but what hooked me and made me keep going in it was, I think it's Sam's particular sting. His music that plays in the bar, and then when you fight with him, which is, it's got rock tones to it, but it's also got country roots tones to it.
It feels very post-rock to me.
I don't know enough about music genres, which I think is going to become clear as we continue talking about this, but
twang.
Yeah, no, the music hit me in the production values in a way that allowed me to access the rest of it, and I'm better for it.
Yeah.
I also, really quick, I realized I just went through the first page of the credits. There were also a bunch of different writers and asset contributors, people who made splash screens and stuff like that.
We'll post the credits, yeah.
Yeah, the full credits will be posted, but I just wanted y'all to know, it's
there was a team.
This was a team effort. It wasn't just one person as much as it seems like kind of Heather Flowers is attached to.
Were there any other programmer credits, or were they the only programmer, or were there other programmer credits?
I'm looking. I think they were the only programmer.
I know Heather did the character art also.
Because they did very well for one person programming this to have the functionality.
This is fully, I wonder if Heather has ever been to New Mexico or Arizona, because this game reminded me of home in a lot of ways. That I loved all the backgrounds and all the weird sunset, the gas station in the middle of nowhere that seems to operate on cosmic horror rules.
Yeah.
I wrote a short story in high school that was about seeing that on the side of Highway 14 outside of Santa Fe. A top notch. I
think that's funny because I relate to it too. A lot of people are using y'all. It has a southern feel to it. I spent a lot of time, I grew up in the South, but I also spent a lot of time in Texas. And so it kind of hit me directly in the Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. As someone who also spent time in Texas, I agree.
A weird border fusion between the Southeast and the Southwest. This kind of hell zone, the middle zone.
Yeah.
As someone from the Midwest,
The real land of corn screaming.
But I mean, eventually we've really kind of covered like what happens here in terms of, I want to get to introducing Brad because that was another moment I had.
Brad's great.
That was the moment I had the opposite strong reaction where I was in. Brad is very
so
special to me as a
funny.
character in this game because his introduction, Alice, you said something really important about like you saying like, oh, actually we have to lean into this. Brad as a character served as my message to be like, oh, we're just doing this. And that was when I felt like I finally got it.
Real quick,
Brad
can we
so
say our
much.
favorite punks?
Yes.
Alice, who's your favorite punk? Your favorite meat punk?
Is this including the mechanics of their mech or just character-wise?
That's interesting because again, I did not like do any of the fighting.
Okay.
It can be either. It can be either for you.
Circle back to me. I have to think about this because
Okay.
I like a lot of them.
Mine, both in gameplay and in all the character moments, was Brad, hands down. Brad made me laugh out loud often.
And Brad, great.
I cringe so much at Brad, which is why I wanted to ask. I think it's so funny because like Brad reminds me so much of me, I think, in terms of just like that enthusiasm that quotes memes in public, that like, I'm like, Brad
has your particular trademark brand, copyright R, ADHD type,
yeah.
I think.
I always have a hard time with people who I feel are similar to me, so.
I find him so charming. And yeah, at first, he has, I have to be upfront as a millennial and say, like, I hate when novels and art and stuff like that uses outright meme references and then talks about them as outright meme references.
Which is why I will never get a Locked Tomb podcast. Yeah,
a lot of his dialogue did clank for me, but that is another thing that kind of, I think, falls off. I think the beginning of this game is very self-conscious of like itself, and then as it sort of realizes who all the characters are, a lot of that drops off. Right around when Ed jumps on, who is also...
Who's Ed?
Ed is my favorite punk.
He's the sun
youth pastor.
cultist?
Yeah.
Oh.
That you left in the dirt?
He's so fucking good. Alice, you have to go back and accept Ed. Every time anything important is happening, there is like 2 lines of dialogue about what Ed is doing, and they are all phenomenal.
Eating sand.
Phenomenal.
Laying face down in a cactus, potentially alive or dead.
Yeah.
My favorite meat punk was Liana.
Really?
Shockingly.
I found myself really attracted to,
Liana.
Y'all are like, oh yeah, the Butch Dyke? No, I'm kidding. I don't know about Liana's whole steez.
Also that like she's green and that she has like a particular brand of like, I don't know, sardonic, like nothing hurts my feelings, so just like fight me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Well, yeah, so if I'm being honest with myself, I think Liana is aspirational for me, but I did follow most of Cass's story.
Right.
So I kept coming back to Cass.
Well, they're kind of intertwined.
Yeah, they're intertwined.
I want to say I am glad that I read the content warnings before I played this game.
That's good to think.
Cass is my favorite, and mostly because I see too much of myself in Cass.
Yeah,
that is the reason, the opposite of why I would say Cass is my favorite because I think they're probably the runner-up. But there are like a couple moments with her that were a little too close.
With them.
Yes, with them. Sorry. Yeah.
Cass is them.
So yeah. Also like purple.
Here's my thing. And I'm gonna swing around on this because this is character driven. I'm gonna say that I didn't really like Liana.
Okay.
Because of how she treats Brad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you explored those dialogues or anything, but like
I did go through those because I kind of stuck closer to Liana in the beginning.
Yeah, it just feels like, I mean, Brad, if his story, this is a very bad week for Brad. He's going through a lot of changes in his life, and Liana is just really talking down to him. And when he speaks up about it, depending on your options, you know, either way, it ends in a fight between them, right?
Well, I will say, even with the most diplomatic and understanding and forthright options, because my first playthrough, I was like, I think Liana would just be rude about this, and I kind of played to character, but I wanted to see what would happen if I was like as conciliatory as possible on both sides. It still ends in a fight. Like, there's fundamentally a personality conflict there.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, a good group has internal conflicts, but yeah, I mean, then let's talk about ships next. So my favorite ship is Cass X Sam. I called them the sad queers for different reasons. Sam hides his sadness. Cass owns their sadness. Can we talk about how Brad speaks in emoticons and emojis? And there's an entire dialogue where they're talking about how can you do that?
Yeah,
And
so
it's
my
very
ship
good.
was Sam and Brad.
Yeah?
I don't know if this is I only did one playthrough. I didn't explore any other options.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you guys encountered this, but once I started having Sam admit that he had a crush on Brad, there are so many options for Sam to talk about how he's a sexual dynamo and how he's so attracted to him. It is so funny. I really like them together.
When you're down bad.
Yeah.
The I'm gay scene lives rent free in my head.
Oh my
It's
god.
so funny.
It's so funny.
We're all gay. We're all queer.
It's very much I am the only queer person in my family energy.
Yeah.
I'm used to this having to be a discussion and an announcement, and everyone else is like, who give a fuck?
Look around. We all are.
What? Somebody says you're in good company, which is such a good response. I really, really liked that.
I think Cass says that.
Yeah.
My favorite ship was Cass and June, who's one of the hopeful meat punks that you meet.
Owlface.
Yeah, I think you got this, Alice.
Owl mask.
Yeah. They have a thing.
The hijabi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
love her.
She's great.
You don't get a lot of the hopeful meat punks, but there's a really cute interaction between Cass and June where Cass and I forget who came with, but another of the meat punks comes over to stay at June's place. And one of them crashes out, but Cass and June stay up and have wine and talk about everything. And Cass talks about how invigorating that was and how it felt like a breath of life after so long.
It's a character turn.
There's if you do, which I'm sure you have because you're both queer as hell. If you do Judy's romance in Cyberpunk,
Oh, yeah.
there's a really similar kind of elongated moment of that.
Yeah.
That I thought was one of the best quests in the whole game. I love those weird little moments where you just end up being so, or the weird, there's a weird artifice media angle of being so intimate in that way. That's almost embarrassing, in a this is too vulnerable.
Yeah.
That I really, really enjoy.
yeah.
But to circle back on Liana, so I said Liana was aspirational for me. And I meant that in the way that I've gone through a lot of depressive episodes in my life, and I felt like I was closer to Cass in terms of my response to shit I've lived through. And I've always wanted to be more like Liana. And that's not great because Liana is not an aspirational character. Liana is broken down. She is the project pickup of this
She
group.
probably has the most work to do, and I think the game does such a good job of showing that.
Yeah. And it's one of those
writing's
things where
dynamite for all
yeah,
of them.
right, exactly. Once I got past my initial, I don't know about this with the writing, it just unfolded itself in
There
such
were
a way that
couple
was
times I felt there was a consistency waiver in a couple of moments where it was again, Brad would come in and I would just be launched into 2009 and feel really uncomfortable in my own skin for a while. And again, that's a reaction that is me entirely and not the fault of
it's me too. That's why I did not get any of Brad's story. Because pretty much anytime there was an option to talk to or as Brad, I was I'm out.
Oh, Brad's
Which I
story's
regret.
great.
I know, I regret. It sounds fantastic.
He's a trans ex-Catholic. It's fantastic.
I love that for him. But yeah, no, with Liana, it's just she is a person who has broken herself against stuff so many times.
Yeah.
The only things she knows in life are people who need to get their asses beat and people you need to protect. And that seems like a worthy way of living until you're in the protect camp and you feel like a fucking child, which I feel like is the conflict with Brad. Liana cannot see the world as anything but her enemies and the people she has to protect. And that feels super patronizing on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so I found her aspirational in the sense that I wish there are times I wish I had been angrier.
I mean, she has great qualities that are plenty of that are quality things to aspire to, but yeah, I really liked their fight scene. I thought it was really well paced, and I really liked the way that they were both. I think Liana more so, but they were both kind of having real dynamic, making a mistake moments that felt really in character for them. Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to say about Brad that is also why he's my favorite is particularly in relation to his mech, which I don't know if I remember off the top of my head everybody's mechanics, but I know Brad's was at the cost of knocking out all of your control systems as if you were like knocked out for a moment, you can do like a super punch that launches them across the map. So I would just do that over and over again.
It's basically an insta-kill
It's
on most
basically an
maps.
insta-kill if you can get the angle just right, which that was like my main strategy.
That's how I play air hockey. I always just go hyper aggressive, and if it doesn't work, I give up.
You knock it off, and it goes across, and the little teenager with pimples is like, hey, you need to be gentle with the machine.
And the person I'm playing against is like, really, why are you always like this? Which is why I relate to Liana.
And also, I was playing as Brad when I figured out there was a really neat, subtle, what's the word I'm looking for? Nuance with how the control scheme worked, which is that you couldn't die, but the more times you were knocked out, the more draggy and delayed your controls would get.
Oh, damn.
Because I was playing as Brad and I was knocking myself out constantly to get that super punch, I started noticing that, like, I would have to press left for fully a second before Brad would start moving.
And you can track it with how many of the how much blood you're losing.
Yeah.
So but they don't tell you this. A lot of the mechanics are kind of there.
That was like kind of cool. Yeah, I liked that.
Like Cass's ability is like she does more damage with the more status effects she has stacked on her, but the status effects aren't always given a visual cue in a way that you would see it. So it's hard to it's fun to learn that mechanic. But it's unique. It's unique.
Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to say about Brad was that you mentioned the names earlier. Brad's mech's name is called Ultra Brad. Which is both super online and very funny in like a meme way, but also when you learn that the reason he calls it that is because as like a trans person, his name is like his number one source of gender euphoria, and so he named his mech Brad so that he would be able to say Brad more, which is...
Did you get the dialogue option where you can ask him what his last name is?
Maybe? Oh, I definitely did, but I don't know if I remember what happened.
I do. So Brad tells you his full name, and here's why I love Brad, because Brad had...
Oh, yes, I have this in my notes. Yes, this is amazing.
His full name is Bradley Fighting Vehicle Danger Ultra Brad.
Oh my God.
First name, Bradley Fighting Vehicle, which he says, I don't know, it just sounded cool. If you know what that is, it is cool. And then middle name Danger, because he always wanted to say that. And then Ultra Brad, which is also the name of his meat punk. It's perfect.
It's
okay.
So
I gotta go spend some more time with Brad.
Honestly,
I saw
play
too
the
much.
Sam Brad romance. It's really good.
I did take screenshots when I piloted as Brad, because when you get into the meat punks, there is this red and black segment that happens.
It's like
just text on
right?
screen. Yeah.
It's a rib cage. It's an
a
ASCII
rib cage
cage
where you're getting in the. I didn't see that at first. I just saw stripes. Well, I'm an idiot. Thank you, Aesthetics Brian, for pointing out the obvious to me. Oh my God.
What about me? Fuck me, huh?
I love you, Alice.
Thank you. Continue.
But I took screenshots of the stuff, just like the form you were born into and the form you chose, built with your own hands. Like, there's so much there. 12 feet tall, made of flesh and exposed nerve switches, eyes on every surface, crystal-plated heart, broken radio parts fused to bone. Like, I mean, we were talking about transness in this game, but, like, this is loud. This is the part that is like, hey, you can't, if you get a body you don't like, build a new body. Like, just do it. It's a mech. Like, oh, yeah. I did enjoy that. And I didn't even have the rest of the context.
One of my favorite things that this game does, and it made me want to replay it more, is each time you choose which of the 4 meat punks you're going to pilot as, you get into the mech. And there's a scene where you get dialogue on screen. And it's contextual depending on what's been happening in the story, where the story is going, and who your pilot is. And so my first run through was Cass heavy, like yours. But if you switch over to another one, everybody has their own story in this, and it doesn't stop for you and whoever you're choosing to play. So you can jump in and somebody is having like I went into Brad after the fight, and he was like, I'm glad I'm on good terms with Liliana again, or something like that. It's wonderful how they do that, and it gets you in it.
Those little flavor texts are so good. I really wish that there were an option to turn off the meat noises that play during that.
I cranked them up.
Did you not turn on vegan mode?
No, what?
I don't actually know what it does. I turned it on and played with it, and I don't remember hearing meat noises. So I think vegan mode turns off meat noises. So if you hit S in the middle of playing... But it might also do
other stuff, though.
I know, that's why I wanted to try it. I was like, I wonder if Alice will play vegan mode. And I went, I'll just go ahead and play it because I don't know. I don't
Okay,
want to typecast Alice the vegan as a vegan.
So you didn't hear those noises?
No.
Okay, so
I just
let me
got
tell
the
you.
music.
Let me tell you. During every ribcage text sequence, which I do want to talk about. Also, just give me 1 second. I have to tell Nico this. The entire time that is playing, and up through you select which character you're going to pilot as. There is this sound, like a fucking ASMR sound of as if somebody had put on a latex glove and was stirring spaghetti with their hand. It's vile. It's vile.
Can I have a Brad moment? Can I have a Brad moment real quick?
Yeah.
That's what good pussy sounds like.
Brad's gay?
No, I'm quoting a Vine.
Oh.
That was yeah.
Me and the pussy, if I'm being perfectly honest right now.
Jesus Christ. People are disgusting.
Going to the fucking flavor texts. Those are so good. I wish I had more screenshots and like quotes of those because that's where the prose gets like so like every single one of those is really, really well composed.
They're all gorgeous.
And they have the statements like you grab the shoulder meat and strap yourself in, you plunge your neck onto the nerve spike, you feel the neurons activating. This is going back to like hard reboot. This is something that I think is a really, really strong potential vector for like written mech media, which is super getting into the like pre-battle. I'm in my cockpit. I'm like at a base level operating this machine in some way. And like the exact like internalized imaginary moral compass, like jumping between like objective and how is my day today kind of like scramble to kind of like make sure, at least this is what I do like when I'm doing something really nerve-wracking is like I make sure I've had all the thoughts I want to have today in a like really like brief like snapshot. And that's what I feel like a lot of these are is just like Alice said, like if something just happened between the group, like there's always a little comment on it. And those are really special moments, I think, in terms of like mech media because, you know, that's where all that action happens really is in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Also, mechs used to be built with people and they have beating hearts that can stop. Just throw that out there.
Yeah, let's talk about the mech mechanics on this Mech podcast. So one thing I want to point out is that Brad is a meat mechanic, works on the Meat Punks, and they kind of lean on him to do a lot of the maintenance and stuff. There's two things that stood out to me. You can talk to him and he can nerd out about it, and he gives you a lot of details about how these things work. While he is explaining this, he's walking around and shoving blood into the stomach of the mechs to fill them up. So literally a trough of blood, and he's just using the mech to shove it into the stomachs because that's how you refill the tanks on these things, which is great. And then one of the other things that he talks about is that some of the older models would run on human flesh.
Yep.
That
just drops that.
Just drops it. And it's so much world building in one little statement, and nobody bats an eye because, we probably did that.
Another thing you get through Brad is that apparently there are piles of meat fucking everywhere because Brad is always off scavenging for meat.
Yeah,
like
that's what's so. That's why that is ultimately why I picked this for our Halloween pick. Because we've it's not a horror game. I agree with Heather on this is not a horror game.
Alice and I don't eat red meat, to be clear.
Yeah.
This is a horror game.
No, this is a game in horrific circumstances. And that's an important distinction for me. So there's this thing that Heather wrote called the Meat Punk Manifesto, which they have since deleted from their itch, so I'm not gonna like read it because I don't know where they're at on like claiming this, but at one point they had written this, and one of the points that was just important was bodies are weird and gross, but also cool. And that is such an underpinning of this whole world.
Yeah.
Is like tactility, viscera, like all of that is just all over.
Nerve switches. Yeah.
And like the degree to which you engage with it, because the Fash drive these mechs, but there's so much grayness to the Fash in contrast with so much redness, so much meatiness, there is so much blood on these characters that we are playing. And that's important because
it's not blood as like a gore or it's gore, but it's not blood as like a meant to be scary, and it's not meant to elicit shock. It's meant to elicit like a reimagining of what mechanics are and what bodies are. It's the oil, it's the grease of this world. And so people are covered in it. And it's also there's also a certain amount of it that's medical. You know, doctors see blood every day, all the time. It stops being about the scarcity and the mortality of it to them. That is the motor oil of the body. And so if you have a big body, that is going to be the motor oil of it, and it's going to be all over your hands, and you're going to be scooping it into its fucking intestines all the time.
Well, and I like how this game with this makes our reality more immediate, because the reality is like oil is a defining substance of our time. And it's everywhere. But you can forget that when you're using plastics, when you're using stuff that has like a gasket on it that's made of plastic, when you are literally filling up the gas in your car, though that's harder to do because it's expensive. But like,
no, but I get what you're saying. It's like an analog.
Yeah, it surrounds us, but we don't pay attention to it. It's not significant anymore. It's become part of the background.
What if your spork was bones?
Oh, yeah, but like legitimately, it's like you can get really cool robot about so much mech stuff because it is legitimately a robot, and there's like a divorce from where did the chips in the robot come from? What is the cost of the fittings in terms of the environment, in terms of money, in terms of labor? And it's meat. It's all out there. It's meat. There's a cost to it. It's meat. You're made of meat. You can't ignore that you can fill the mechs up with blood, and you can also pay at the register in the gas station with blood.
I think, I want to talk about mechs because here's my thing with this game, right? Like we can extrapolate all of this. We can talk about all of this high lore and all of this. I think people should experience this because while we're talking about this is just a fun little goofy game that has meaning to it, and it's cute and it's enjoyable. And we're extrapolating all of this from just like very limited interactions. For a visual novel, the interactions are not long. They're very quick. You can click through them fast.
It's such a short game. There's not a lot. And eventually, this is kind of why we're getting so into
enjoyable.
The thematics. Because it's so rich with all that stuff.
It's
like nothing's
rich.
really wasted.
I will say playing this as a vegan was a weird experience because I see meat and meat products and all of that in an odd way to be like, they never say where the meat comes from here. Nobody really explains where all of this meat comes from. And you never see animals or anything, and all of the food they eat is protein bars and things. They never eat meat in this game. And I don't know. I don't know where I want to say with that, but I'm just saying, as somebody who already has like sworn off red meat, it was very surreal to equip a red meat mech to punch other red meat mech.
That's what I was wondering about, like how your reaction would be to it.
Yeah, because I didn't play vegan mode or anything like that because I wanted to experience it the way the author intended. I don't believe the author is dead in this situation, but I will say I can mostly speak to, because I'm not a literary analyst, I can speak to the mechs. And I kind of want to talk through our four main mechs, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I also want to say, I do think this is a horror game because at the end of this, Fash wins.
Yeah, that's true.
But we can just spoil it. Fash wins at the end of this game. Spoiler.
We have to. That was what I was gonna. That's why I wanted to see if Alice had anything, is because I do want to talk about the end of this game, because honestly, not a lot happens between nothing happens between what we've talked about and the end of the game.
Yeah, it kind of runs up on you.
There's one scene with Cass, but like I think people should experience that because it was way real.
Yeah,
very dark,
and I loved it. And I just want to say that was written. Whole story was just written in a way that it resonated with me. That's my last thought on that. Also, like, this game is not subtle. They get kicked out. They get chased out of a town called Sundown, and they're going to Hopeville.
Yeah.
Like, also, the fact that this is an episodic game. So I play a lot of visual novels that are released episodically. And with a lot of those, they're usually done by studios. And so the iteration on them is never really that big because somebody sits down and they plan that out. It's a company making it. So when an individual developer creates a visual novel and you see it, Brian, you said a lot about the tone. It changes throughout it as it kind of finds its voice throughout the different episodes. Like, if I were to talk about episode 3, for example, I can talk about the gas station for a long time because it pops out. But like, to talk about episode 1, I'm like, yeah, hat fash. The difference in what I pulled out of this is depending on how far in it is, and that like by the 5th one, like the writing found its place, and I really do like the narrator voice that comes out sometimes, and I love how she comes out.
I did not like this, so I'm excited to talk about it. But let's go through those mechs, because I do think it's important to talk about how they
real quick. I do just think it's real quick. Get real close to your mic. I do just think it's funny because I have the Meat Punk manifesto up on screen when Alice was like, "It's not subtle." Point 2 on this manifesto: subtlety is for fuckers. So that's by design, and I think that's funny.
Subtlety is for fuckers. Shoutouts to Heather. Heather's great. Y'all should follow Heather.
I think we should talk about the ending first and then talk about the mechs.
Yeah, let's get into the ending. I had no idea what the fuck was going on with the ending because I skipped combats. So I didn't know who this dude was.
Unfortunately, you're not missing much because he just kind of shows up
and talks to you about thunder.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
I kind of got that he was a figure from Cass's past. He used to hang around the store.
Well, it's interesting because he's a figure from Cass's past, but he actually will really only show up depending on who you are piloting that day that he shows up. Because I happened to be using Sam that day, and he showed up for Sam, and Sam talked to him, and then Sam talked to the rest of the group later on about him. But until the end, for me, he did not come up again. And then at the very end, he talks to Cass, and it's like they know each other, and it kind of it didn't come out of nowhere, because like I said, there's like a little moment earlier, but I was like, that was, I think it's part of the selective storylines that you get to play through, which in the end, I do like that about it. So I'm not like mad that I didn't really know what was going on there, but.
Yeah, sometimes you do get involved in situations where you just don't know who's at the heart of the drama. You're just there.
Yeah, really. So just saying that. But
yeah, playing a Cass main, I got his thing pretty quickly in their interaction, what was happening. Like, we can just say it's their dad. I know it's probably not, but I'm going to say it's their dad. It has
That's kind of the vibe I got.
My dad's a fash vibes.
He's very my evil dad vibes. Yeah, I was just going to say he has evil dad energy.
And even if he's not, evil father figure energy, evil older man energy.
Evil paternalistic energy.
So to clarify, this dude shows up right before you get to Hopeville. He talks to whoever is there that day. There's a brief snippet about him, and then he kind of drops off. You get you go to sleep, you go to Hopeville, you get this intermission from the author, which like it was weird, and I have like thoughts about it. And then what happens is he'll like come back during the final mission, and it turns out he's been like either wielding the fash or manipulating them, or he just is fash. It's kind of unclear. And he's doing something with the sun that I'm just like, I don't get any of this personally. But so to talk about that author interlude, I like these. I like Range Touch calls them meta moves. I'm sure that's probably also a theory term, but that's where I hear it the most. And I do tend to like them. I think they can be really corny and weird. I don't think this one's corny and weird. I think this one's deployed with a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, earnestness in mind. So basically there's like a black screen and white text. And for me, this was the only time this happened. The narrator, quote unquote, comes on and says like, oh, actually it does happen at the end of chapters, I think, where it just says like,
yeah, there's a couple other that I came across.
Yeah. But they just say like, oh, I was hoping this would be a happy story, but sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. I am so very sorry. And then like it moves forward, and it's not cringe that makes me not like this. It's that it's like, it's offloading this weird emotional burden that I haven't had a chance to like even comprehend yet. We don't know shit about Hopeville. I was expecting everyone to die.
But see, I like that. This actually reminds me of Stephen King.
I'm not mad that people didn't die. I'm mad that what ended up happening was like a catastrophe on a place that I have absolutely no connection to. I have absolutely no reason to have like a pathos with.
You haven't even gotten to it, and it's a chapter.
And you're
interact
already
with-
going to tell me that this goes badly? Like, I kind of expected that in the first place, because this is a video game and stories are stories and not everything is always sunshine and rainbows. So like in that way, I also kind of found it weirdly a little bit condescending. But my main issue with it is that like if you're gonna stop the narrative and talk at me in this way that like it offloads this like huge kind of emotional like ramp up, then it had better be something that like I've been made to care about or is thematic to the rest of the story. You know what I mean?
See, and I have a contrasting view of that because, like, the first place that I remember really seeing something like this was Carrie by Stephen King.
Right.
And Stephen King has this device that he deploys, which is saying something, like, ending a scene and then saying something like, and when the crime scene techs reassembled the room 3 days later, they discovered what he had missed or something. And it's that kind of, it's not quite as in your face as I'm going to put a black screen and, like, type to you as the author. But it is that move of this is going to end in tragedy and you don't even really know yet what the cost will be. And I like that because it tinges everything that comes after.
Right.
And so when you get to the end, you're ready kind of for it. But also at the same time, it gives this like creeping weight of like dramatic irony to everything else. So I enjoyed it.
I'm going to come at this from the visual novel standpoint. I saw it as compassion of the author. So while I didn't know Hopeville, I knew that I was coming to the end of a series of 5 visual novels. And the vibe I had of the game is that we were fighting the Fash and we were going to, be in a better place than we started the game because it's a progressive story and I want to believe in the hope of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So it was nice to have that. I will say my interpretation is it was cast specific. And so that kind of put me on edge, but it was nice to have that knowing that, hey, something bad's going to happen and it's going to feel gross.
Right.
Even if you,
I appreciate
but I get what you mean.
That for sure. I agree actually that it comes from a place of compassion. It comes from a place of like, the same kind of culture that bears content warnings, which I think is a good thing flatly, just kind of like as a blanket statement. I do think that's a good thing. But Nico, your point is actually what I was talking about, where it's like that modality is successful because you spend the entire book with Carrie ramping up to the worst thing that could possibly happen. And so his little hints about that are really successful because this gym in this school and these people have been in our faces. We've heard their voices. We've seen parts of their stories. And now everything is going to go badly for all of them. I wish the whole game had just taken place in Hopeville because that would have been the same device and it would have worked.
I thought Hopeville was going to be season 2. That's what
I thought.
I'll be
too,
real.
yeah.
I thought we were going to get a whole.
And I really hope we're not
season.
done with the Hopeville characters because I really liked them all. And I did like this part of the game, but I kept thinking about the message being like, okay, so who here is like, and again, it's like, it's not that I think somebody should have died specifically of the main cast. I just think there should have been an overall more successfully deployed tragedy that really made me, that like took me at the core of where I engaged with the game. If it had been Sundown that got destroyed, that would have been much different, I think.
Well, see, I would disagree with you there because Sundown has nothing to offer the characters. That's why they're so quick to run. And Hopeful, I think it's almost more useful.
It has Sam's farm.
It's not about the place specifically. It's about the amount of time we spend there in the narrative and in the space. I think the Mech genre is so much about spaces.
If we had spent time in Hopeville, there's no way this could have landed because there was no way for it being the last chapter, we could have spent enough time for this to matter.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I didn't like the fact that it was in there.
But it works for me if you let Hopeville just be a metaphor with hope with no details attached. Because
but you also go to a diner there.
You go to a diner. You can go to a diner anywhere. But like for me, I always thought that the Sundown crew, those meat punks.
Fuck you, Nighthawks.
Fuck you,
yeah,
Nighthawks.
I have a strong stance. I thought that was so interesting because they were running towards Hopeville. They knew that there were other meat punks there, and they didn't know anything else. It's not like they were like, oh, and I've got a friend I can crash with, and there's good coffee on 5th or whatever. Hopeville was vague. Hopeville was just hope. And by leaving it vague, by letting it be more metaphorical, when it's destroyed, it's literally just destroying hope. And I'm okay with it being that clear cut. and not being invested in, oh my God, we saw the neighbor lady and her cat got incinerated, because all of that potentiality is wrapped up in hope, and Fash have just destroyed hope as a concept.
Here's my problem with that. Here's my one thing with that. That's okay, hope as a concept. The problem is in this same chapter, you introduce 3 characters who love Hopeville and are defending it. And so here's what happens. You fight the big bad guy. He pulls a Watchman. Oh, I'm not some serial villain. I sent
did
the
it
bomb
12
off
minutes ago.
20 minutes ago. And he does this, and he uses the power of the sun to blow up Hopeville, right? He's found a way through radio waves to get Hope to blow it up.
We did not even talk about the sun. It's fine.
Yeah.
We did talk about the sun. It's gone. The cultists think it was the villain.
That's
There's
right.
a weird technology that keeps going wrong throughout the game.
Yeah. Then those 3 people who have already been kind of like cautious of you, and this is over the course of one chapter, cautious of you, and then welcome you into their home, having intimate moments. Depending, I played both sides because I wanted to see all of the 3 meat punks, and they're taken. Okay, the 2 lesbians are taken. So, and then after this, they look at you and they're like, you 4 sundown meat punks are the worst pieces of shit who have ever existed, and you killed everything we loved and wanted and everything. And we're just gonna we gotta leave. We gotta go because fuck you guys. And it makes you feel so bad for what you brought onto this town that you have no investment in. But these 3 characters that you've started to have an investment in now immediately hate your guts. And that just really, that hurt me.
Yeah.
But not in a way that felt, I wanted more out of those characters than to immediately hate
I want
me for
so
that.
much more of those characters. I really hope we're not done with them, because the reason I exclaimed just now is because I'd forgotten about the lady with the weird hand, and we don't know anything about that, and I love her. I'm obsessed with her.
Oh, yeah, Emmy.
Oh, if you read the character stuff, there's a little, she basically has like a demon that she's made a contract with.
It's sick,
great.
dude.
This setting is bizarre.
It's bizarre.
It's so wild.
So
that's my whole thought on that is where I think it fails is how the 3 new characters react to you and you showing up and failing to stop a guy that you couldn't have stopped and they couldn't have stopped without you either. That's it.
Well, not to be like it reminds me of leftist infighting, but it reminds me of leftist infighting.
I was actually going to say the same thing.
Okay, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you didn't do enough.
I think that's kind of what this is supposed to be poking at.
Are they the Bernie Bros?
A little bit. No, no, they're not the Bernie Bros. They're the she's electable if you vote for her bros.
None of these people would be accepted into those tents. I'm just gonna say it.
Obviously, but this is what I'm saying is like
none of these words are in the Bible. These fucking people.
This is supposed to be poking at like the weird why are we placing blame on things on systemic things that we've all come to this place because we've acknowledged we're born with them. I don't understand.
What happened to Hopeville was an inevitability, but they're going to be pissed because new people did show up and technically not do an incredible magic trick and make it not be doomed, you know?
Well, and they're grieving. I guess I get it. But like so there are 2 like lines that I think are the core of my confusion about what exactly happens at the end of this game. So like obviously I get it. Hopeville is destroyed. He nuked it with the sun. He says something along the lines of like, I'm releasing the sun, which means it's like it was the sun kept underneath Hopeville and he let it go. Because the other thing that supports that observation is that at the very end, the meat pugs say we're going to go steal the sun. So the sun is stealable now.
Well, he reveals that the sun was stolen.
Yeah.
Right, he said it was stolen, and he said he was going to free it, so now they're going to steal it again.
My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Alice, because it sounds like you did a lot of playthroughs on this and got a little bit more, even if you didn't have, like, the sun cultist guy.
The lore.
The sun was stolen, but the popular belief is that it went away.
Right.
And, like, the sun cultists have a specific perspective that is very much like, it hates us and it's plotting.
It left us. Yeah, it left us to go.
But no, what I was trying to say, it's like, I think the general consensus among people is that it left us, and the sun cultists are suspicious of why it would do that. Clearly, it must be plotting something. People have projected a lot of ideas onto the missing sun, and then the rug pull kind of at the end is like, it didn't leave us, it was stolen. And the implication is that I thought the implication was that, like, the Fash had stolen it and replaced it basically with a light switch. But,
Yeah.
I mean, the guy at the end, like, I was a little unclear on what he was unleashing, but I kind of knew, I understood kind of where the sun had gone and what had happened to it in that way.
Yeah, I think that all meshes. But what does he do to Hopeville? There's like so many lines that imply that he's using the sun to do what he does to Hopeville.
Yeah.
So like I don't understand where that lies.
I mean, I'm a little confused on it, and I think it was late game to try to
Maybe
be
we
laying.
need to play season 2.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like I think we're kind of getting into territory that it's like, listen, we were late game. There was an idea they wanted to reach. And I'm sure it's explicated more in the thing that's called, From the Ash. I
think it's a
Bound by Ash.
Guys, it's just a space laser. Okay, like we don't have to overthink this. It's a space laser that he shoots.
So the Bright is also a space laser?
No, the
it's
Bright
a
is
light
just a light switch.
So where is the sun and why are they stealing it again?
Don't worry about it. Don't
Part
worry
of this
about
is that
it.
nobody ever looks up.
Okay.
No, I think it's a concept that is introduced to be expanded upon in future installments. That's my interpretation.
You're probably right. I think what I'm running up against is a lot of this just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So that's just like something I'm not going to be able to like reconcile with what's actually happening in the fucking literary apparatus, which again, I had a great time with, especially the end of this game. I just didn't get it, and I don't think I'm gonna get it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. There's a TTRPG. We'll just run a game where I'll make you get it by force. This is a joke, because if I ever actually finish a game, it'll be a miracle. Okay.
Roll to get it.
But yeah, I think a visual novel will not always hit with everybody, and that's part of the greatness of it. Also, there are parts you won't like. Like, I don't like Bryn from Fate. Sorry, guys. Her writing's bad in every iteration.
I have to just imagine this is the most inflammatory thing you could possibly say.
Yeah, I'm going to assume Alice basically just live on it.
She's the Twin Tails.
Oh, no.
I'm assuming Alice just made 1 million enemies.
She's one of the 3. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, Alice just aligned our podcast. Oh my god. Well, let's talk about the mechs.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go through the 4 of the main mechs.
I think I can remember them. I want to try. I want to try guessing. Hold on. Can I try guessing?
Do you want me to give you the character name?
And it's Brad's.
Do you want me to give you the character name and then you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sam. What's the name of his mech?
Sam is Roots and Ash.
It's Roots Among Ash. I got that wrong, but yeah.
Okay.
Here's a hard one. Brad?
Ultra Brad.
Ultra Brad.
Hell
Ultra
yeah.
Brad.
I like that you remember his name given everything you've told me about his story. It's like, yeah, that's the one to remember. All right, Liana.
Oh, fuck.
Liana is
Roller Derby.
Crash Queen.
Oh.
Crash Queen. I was going to say...
Yeah, basically in that energy.
I was about to say Megan Carnage, but that's actually her ex-wife, right?
Yes, it is.
I have in my
It's
notes,
very
I want to
good.
be married to... Or actually, I have specifically, I want to be ex-married to Megan Carnage. I just want to be ex-married to someone named Megan Carnage.
You know my ass would be in the grocery store saying shit like, I've left Carnage behind me.
Jesus Christ.
Saying it into your little ground beef.
Into my wheel of queso fresco. Okay, Cass.
Oh, I couldn't do this. I was talking to Big Game.
Something about fear.
Cass is all or nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. So those are the 4 mechs that we have. And in terms of look, visual representation, the only real visual representation we get is the game splash art and a little chunky meat among us that you
And the
drive
difference
around.
between them is the
Colors.
color of their trail.
Yeah.
When they move.
Briefly, there is a mention of, there's a conversation between Brad and Sam where Brad guesses that Sam's mech is for farming because it has longer claws.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of like detail given in description.
There's supposed to be like visual differences, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know that it tracks well what they are.
I really debated pulling images for this from the TTRPG because, spoilers, they got a lot of art done for that, and it's very cool to actually see.
I want to see it.
Yeah, but I also didn't want to poison this episode with future knowledge. We're looking at this game.
Y'all should buy that game and look at that art if you like
Yes,
Meat Mechs.
it's incredible art.
And if you don't like Meat Mechs, what are you doing here?
Art stances.
Joining us for the Halloween episode.
Spooky.
I guess actually that's true. If you don't like Meat Mechs, this is definitely a horror episode.
No, but I do think this is a good intro to Meat Mechs, right? Because it throws you in the deep end.
Meat Mechs 101.
Like, if you're going to talk about this, this would prime you to deal with what happens in Ava. Like,
oh, and also Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Also a mech media. So I do want to say that there's a key piece of phrasing when you get into the mechs. Speaking the name of your mech is a very important thing. It's how you bond with the mech. But the way it's phrased is you are all or nothing because you become the mech when you jack into it. I'm now going to go through all four and we're going to talk about the mechanics. So Sam is the basic mech. His mechanics are that he can teleport with a right click a short amount of distance.
Or like a rush. It's something like that.
It's a teleport, and like a bunch of the Fash also have it.
Oh, okay.
It's like the one that they have.
And then he doesn't have any like passive, as I recall, does he?
As far as I know, it's just a punch and a jump.
But most of them have a passive. He does not have a passive.
I wish there was some kind of wiki. Unfortunately, this is a very
loading the
small
game real quick. One sec. Give me just a second because I wanna speak to this accurately, and this one I actually didn't.
Accuracy and journalism. While she's doing that, can I mention that the animation for punching is a swoop? Just a swoop.
Yeah.
I really liked that. It's cute.
Yeah, it's like a big swing, and I like that. Legitimately, everything y'all have said has made me just want to play this on something with a mouse. I really thought it was going to be more visual novel focused when I started playing it. And so I got in there and was like, oh, I can't be doing this shit with trackpad. So that's why I ended up skimming a lot of combat. You just can't do it.
I have to spam click to get to the mech part. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
God, Jason is so good.
More Jason in 2, I hope. Maybe they go to the big city and Jason's there.
I forgot that was the Blood Masons. The team names. So good. The lead player is Blood and Asphalt.
Yeah.
Because all the players are also named.
Well, the implication is that they play in mechs. So
I mean, you do everything in a meat mech in this universe, pretty much.
Yeah, but like Liana specifically talks about when she's like envisioning her future. She's like, I don't know. I think at this point I might have the experience to be a blood sport player, which is, it's not football. It's not football. The whole time it's called blood sport, which again, for me, is just a literalization of there's a blood price to football, but we all cheer and buy, well, we don't, but like you cheer and you buy jerseys and it's ubiquitous and elided. But when it's actually called blood sport, subtlety is for fuckers. Like actually call it a spade a spade.
That's a good point, actually.
I forgot how good the tutorial is for this game. He's like, use the WASD keys. The what?
Yeah, he's just like straight up. Imagine you have a mouse.
There's a couple great little like fourth wall moments like that. Another one is when you have like I don't know what the context is, but you're playing as Sam and you have a context option to lie, and then someone else is all, did you just whisper lie to yourself? Because it's like the dialogue option says like yes and then parentheses lie, and you click that one and like I think it's like Cass is like, did you just whisper the word lie to yourself? And he's like, oh,
that's incredible.
It's really good.
Okay, yeah, Sam doesn't have a passive. Sorry, just wanted to confirm. Yeah. No passive
Sam
on
is also blue. Shout out.
Shout outs to color coded characters. So he's your basic, just your soldier 76. He just can jump around and fight, and he has just your generic mech. And then Cass's mech, all or nothing. So Cass's mech, their mech, the passive ability is that the more status effects they have, the more damage they do, the farther they punch. Their right click. So everybody's mouse 1 is to just punch. Their mouse 2 is to stop them in place. Where that comes into play is that if you're hit by an enemy mech, you can right click to stop being pushed backwards. Mm-hmm. Hard to time it. I found her the most difficult to play because trying to stack status effects without getting yourself knocked out was very hard to kind of manage. What I did find is that you can start any of the missions by choosing a character and then you get their dialogue, and then it immediately can give you the option to switch to use another player's mech without, ruining getting that dialogue. Mm-hmm. So I would always just go back to the ones that I played. So Liana's, she go fast. Her mech's passive is that she just moves at a higher speed. Her right click is a boost to move faster. I found her the funnest to play because you could bully the enemy before they could punch you. You could get into their strike distance and knock them back and just bully the shit out of people. You really control the field. Really fits her. Brad's mech, the passive ability is that he repairs faster. So he comes back from being down. So there's two. You can lose control of your weapons temporarily, and you can get knocked out and you can't move. Enemies follow the same rules. So if somebody is knocked out from having weapons, you can get up and bully them. If they're knocked out completely, you can just shove them off the edge. His right click is he instantly downs himself to do a powerful punch that knocks a person pretty much across most fields entirely. And so so the mechanics aren't really too much different. It's just punching to knock things over. But yeah, there's a play style for everybody, and you can just use the mech that you like without losing out on the story of characters. You're
I do think
locked into it.
One thing that this captures about just mech media in general is that their mechs and their kits are really, really well and intertwined with their characters and their arcs.
Yes.
In a way that I really, really enjoy. Brad front loads his everything into like the first 5 seconds. Then you're like, what the fuck just happened? All Cass knows how to do is fight and take hits.
They don't feel fear.
Liana is a straight aggressor. And Sam is kind of like hidey hole.
Yeah.
He's going to pretend everything's fine.
I can just play by the rules, Sam.
So that was just interesting to me. And another reason that my score is as high as it is, because I don't know that the actual design of the mechs comes through. It's just the theme work, which I don't know if we want to get to that, but that's just my preview of what I'm going to say there.
No, you're good. We can move on to the ratings.
Can we talk about the final battle? You're forced to play Cass.
Had me sweating.
So if you haven't played with Cass a lot, it's hard. And also, it's not... You have to kill the boss 5 times. And
Or if you're me and you're running to the edge of the map to die so you can skip combat, you have to die and then be goated about the fact that you are so bad at this and everything is futile 5 times.
Well, hold on.
Which was grim.
There's another component to this. I actually really like this fight because if you do die, you also have the option to just play as somebody else as the other leader loads another mech onto the catapult for you. You can, what I had a really fun time doing was I would be able to down him and then he would get me and then I'd be able to switch to someone else. So it really felt like the whole team was working together.
Oh, wow.
Neat.
Yeah.
I'm a gamer, and so I wasn't downed once as Cass, and I did kill him every single time.
Me and Alice are the spectrum of not engaging with a core cool mechanic, didn't engage period, and was too good to activate the mechanic.
But I'm so glad that you had a different experience, because that
makes way more sense.
The meat punks, the sundown meat punks. I love that,
and
honestly.
it explains the emphasis on the 1 minute launch. Like, they were so focused on making sure you knew it was going to take 1 minute to get, things
Which
going.
Which does make it really weird that if you just play as Cass and you're beating this person up, nobody else comes. You're just locked in it. They never get through that 1 minute.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it took me a lot longer than a minute to kill that guy, because oof.
The music for this fight also is no notes, flawless execution, great song.
Oh, I mean, the music, just honestly, aesthetically and everything, I loved it.
And it came together for me at the end. Like I said, everything... There's a great quote that's like, everything that repulses you about the flaws of a medium will eventually be things you treasure about it. And I felt that about this game. Like, I had to be hooked in, but then once I was in at the end, I was like, all of this came together. I was really enriched by this experience, and I'm super glad I played it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I had the chance to do it, because of going, I can't do the movie Aliens. What's got goop on it?
And also the structure of the podcast in general. I think this is bringing us a lot of really, really special things that otherwise would not have even kind of come across my plate.
Yeah. Gratitude.
Do you want to rate these machinations?
Let's rate these goddamn mechs.
Yes. Alice, your name starts with an A.
That means I go first.
Yeah.
So I love the writing around each of the 4 main mechs. I love every single one's beautiful little vignettes. And one of my main driving factors to replay this game was I wanted the scenes of them getting into these mechs, because each one is so unique and special, and is written in a way that I was in it, in the cockpit with these characters and in these mechs. The downside is this game was designed and programmed by one person, and on the screen they all look exactly the same, except for one has a hat, one has horns, and every now and then there's one that's slightly bigger. There's a scene when you come out of the bar and you're surrounded by Fash, and every single person has the exact same little pixel character as you do. And that, I'm not saying that visuals are very important for me. We've done books on this and we've done things like that. But
We've done one book.
yeah, you know what I mean. I'm trying to speak to
You're
people.
growing as a person.
I'm growing as a person. But like, it was the characters, not the mechs, that drove me through this. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this just a 3 for mechs.
All y'all people on Twitter who know about the discourse, this is one mech media that focuses on the characters. I'll tell you guys about that later. Anyway.
Oh yeah, you gotta fill me in because I don't go online.
There was a Pat Labor incident. I'll just say that.
Oh no.
Yep.
Brian,
anyway,
what's up?
I'm gonna come out to bat and just say that this is a 5, and I think it would be much lower because of all the reasons that Alice said. And again, like, this is kind of part of the structure of the podcast. Like, just because the design couldn't quite hit because of the artifice and the medium, like, that's not a value judgment necessarily, but because there's not really a strong way in this particular package to visualize or stylize or represent these mechs, it can't quite get the job done. What it does manage to do is give you the ribcage, which is just, I think, so gorgeous and so unique and so cool, especially like later on when weird stuff starts happening to it, which we didn't even talk about and isn't explained at all. So maybe the second season we'll get into that stuff, but very like existential, like weird Evangelion, like, what is in here with me type stuff. That stuff all hit so hard and was so good. Little details about like how they do look, like I said, with Sam's mech, all kind of put in a really nice package that I had again, such a good time with, even though there were a couple things that like knocked me on my ass. So yeah, 5.
I've got to be out here. You know, this is my corner. These are my people.
This is the meat mechs.
These are my meats.
This is my meats.
These are my meats. I have the meats, and
We are not sponsored by Arby's. Yet.
Arby's, what are you doing on Thursday?
Arby's, if you would like to sponsor our Halloween episode.
The 5 for 5 meat mech pack.
Oh man, now I'm just thinking about Brad in an Arby's dumpster. Like, I'm finding great components in here. Like, dude, get out of the meat dumpster. This is an 8 for me. I'm gonna be the high that carries this, so it is not our lowest.
I love this. I honestly love this. This is exactly what I thought would happen.
So Escaflowne was a 9 for me, and I am trying to think of things in terms of the precedents I've already set, and I think Escaflowne was a 9 for me because of the way that this meatiness was treated as functionally a weapon of mass destruction, which is a flavor that I like in media. I like when the thing that is cool in other stuff is like verboten in whatever the different media that I'm consuming is. So that was kind of the edge for me. And naturally, there was a lot more visuals. But I am the word bitch. I mean, Brian, you are also the word bitch. Get up on the podium with me. But like, I am the exact opposite of Alice. Like, the little details that you get in those ribcage scenes that give you the texture and the feeling and the presentation, like Brad's all being covered in eyes is so wild to me. It's a throwaway line. There's a part where Cass Jackson, and it's mentioned that using the neural spike, which enters your body, has actually displaced a part of their nerves, like the part where they need to connect. They've done this so many times that their body has been changed by it, and so it's a little bit harder and more invasive. I loved so much of what was put on the screen here, even if it was just in text. And I was enchanted by it. And like I said, kind of when I kind of made a mental connection for me about this literalizing the cost of weapons of war in a way that is not subtle, it's literally blood and flesh. You know, you can look at a battleship and be like, well, that's just a cool ship. There's a life cost to anything we interact with in society, and some things have greater life costs than others, and weapons of like violence and conflict literally being made out of our flesh and displacing our flesh, that did it for me. And I was like, I love this. This is fantastic. The only thing was, like I said, I agree with both of y'all that I would have loved more kind of visual interest in the little icons on screen. I get that they had to be animated, so that is kind of a scope constraint, but also just, you know, that's what you're interacting with. Yeah. Right? So I felt it suffered there, and the fact that, like, that's part of the thing. At the end, you get some illustrated panels that kind of illustrate the end of things. I would have loved those generally more throughout the work. I understand that's like commissioned art, so, you know, again, scope issue, but only seeing like an illustration. That's a scope issue. I say scope issue in the kindest way, because honestly, scoping down is good. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Deliver what you want to deliver. But the only illustrated like meat punk that we get being kind of the cover art, it's evocative, but also like I felt the lack. So yeah, it's an 8 for me. I love. Oh, that's just so good. That's so satisfying. I don't know why. It is. Don't ask me. I'm that bitch.
Also, the game isn't a 3 for me. This is just based on my criteria for Mech.
Oh yeah, no.
The game was a 9 out of 10.
I was thinking about that because you're the person, we talked about this in the bonus episode. You love the pilots. Like, you really do. And so I was like, oh yeah, if Alice enjoys this, I think Alice will really enjoy it. And so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I love a pilot.
So with that rating, we're going to go ahead and head to the break, after which we will have a fun game for y'all. All right.
Hey guys, Alice here. So On the Shoulders of Giants is a brand new podcast. We're still getting ourselves started. So if you like what you're hearing and kind of want to hear more of it, maybe leave a 5-star review on your podcasting app of choice, especially if you're on Apple, because that would really help us out. And if you know anybody who might like Mechs, point them in our direction. We'd love to hear from them, and, you know, maybe they'll like what we're giving out there. Again, if you like us, leave us a note, send us a message, leave us a review. Just, you know, interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. And with that, let's go back to the episode.
We have a game. Our game is called Meat or Punk.
Welcome back from break.
No, they're not welcome. They're right in the game. This is like Saw. They woke up in the game.
Would you like to play a game?
I'm going to give you a phrase. You have to tell me if it's the name of an overpriced burger or a critically acclaimed punk album. We'll alternate. I'm obsessed.
And hungry.
This is a terrible thing to record when all of the burger places are closed.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, listener, if your local burger place is closed right now, maybe try finishing this one out tomorrow, huh? Maybe try finishing out this listen tomorrow morning, huh?
Yeah, you have our permission. Just pause the podcast.
Nobody said you had to listen to the pod all at once.
It'll be November 1st. You don't got anything going on. Go get you a burger.
I'm talking about myself.
I know, Alice. I know.
Oh,
but also,
we're talking to the listeners. Hi, listeners.
You know, when we're on the podcast, we have listeners.
There's a local burger chain that has 3 different options of vegan burgers that are all delicious. And I just want to say,
there's a vegan option in this game for you, by the way.
Any burger place that charges $4 extra for an Impossible Patty over the price of their shitty meat burger should burn in hell. Continue.
No, that is the official stance of On the Shoulders of Giants vis-a-vis Impossible.
On the Shoulders of Giants said all overpriced non-meat burgers are assholes.
Yep. That's the phrase.
Also, any place that won't let you just put a vegan patty on any of their burgers, it's like, it's the same condiments and shit, asshole. Just throw the vegan patty on it. I'm not going to get the mushroom Swiss, which is your one option. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so again, you have to tell me if it's the name of an overpriced burger or a critically acclaimed punk album. And for this, I did look up, I forget which website, but it was like 100 punk albums of all time. So it's by somebody's metric.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We'll alternate. 4 bonus points. If you guess burger, you can also try to guess how much it costs. If you're within $1 of the price, you get a point.
Ooh-wee.
So you have to, for that, you have to both guess correctly that it's a burger and be within $1 of the price, but that is worth a bonus point.
Okay.
Let's fucking go.
So, Alice.
Yes.
First item. Burn in Love.
Punk album.
Brian, would you like to steal? Wait, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
I was about to say.
Meh, never mind. I was just like, wait, this isn't multiple choice. Okay, so if you don't get it,
Nobody gets it, but you can steal by. Can I give a one for you? If it's the person who's stealing can give price or artist of the album.
yeah, okay.
Because I know a lot of punk artists, so I might
I'm
be
down
able to
for
get
that.
points.
I'm down for that. Yeah, I feel like Alice is going to sweep this. So, Brian, do you want to make a guess at the price for a point on this one?
Of the Burn in Love burger? Mm-hmm. $12.
Unfortunately, nobody gets a point.
Damn.
This is a burger from Red Robin. Fried jalapeno coins, house-made salsa, pepper jack, lettuce, tomato, and chipotle aioli served on beef, or an Impossible patty. This is the vegan option. It does cost $15.29. So
Imagine being a person who goes to Red Robin.
Yeah. Fuck. Hey, Red Robin. More like Red Highway Robinry. Got him. Got him. Got him.
Nailed it. Red Robin, we're coming for you.
Okay, my turn.
Brian, your item, Rocket to Russia.
Oh, that's a punk album.
Okay, that's the point.
Can I say the artist? I think I know the artist. Is it the Ramones?
Yes, it is.
That is one of the top albums.
Shout outs to my dad.
I'm glad that y'all know these because I was just picking names based on how much they sounded like burgers. Okay, Alice.
Hi.
It's your item, Tokyo Classic. Meat or punk?
Meat.
That is correct. Would you like to make a guess at the price? Or would you like me to give you the ingredients first?
Tell me if it's Wagyu beef.
It is not Wagyu beef.
Okay, what's the toppings?
Okay. This is a burger from Katsu Burger. You get red onion, shredded cabbage, tomato, pickles, tonkatsu sauce, and Japanese mayo on a beef patty fried katsu style.
That sounds fucking delicious.
$13.
Unfortunately, you do not get the bonus point. You just get the regular point. This beautiful burger, the Tokyo Classic, will only cost you $10.20. Katsu Burger.
Katsu Burger sucks, though.
It does suck, though.
That's gorgeous. Hey, quick shout out. And Gordon Ramsay, I'm talking to you. If you make a fucking burger out of Wagyu beef, go fuck yourself. I don't even
the other
eat.
strong stance. Of
I don't even
OSG on
eat red
burgers.
meat, and I'm literally offended by the concept of doing that.
It legitimately is. Yeah. Okay, Brian, back to you.
Jesus Christ. He's about to kill Gordon Ramsay. Okay.
We're making threats. See, we
Brian.
played this political game and we got radicalized, and now we're making actionable threats against Gordon Ramsay.
And Red Robin.
And Red Robin. Okay, Brian, your item is the fatted sow.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This game is fuck, that is difficult. I gotta say punk album.
Unfortunately not. Alice, this is a burger. Would you like to try a guess at the price?
Can you give me a rundown of the ingredients?
Yeah, I should have done that for the first one for you on the Burn in Love, Brian, but this is a burger from Stack 571.
The fuck is that?
Don't worry about it. If you know, you know. Bacon, bourbon bacon slaw, bacon whiskey jam, cheddar cheese, pickle, marinated tomato, and house sauce on a beef and bacon patty.
Oh, fuck off with the bacon stun.
That's just $15.
God, I wish it was. Alice, we live in a different world. That is an $18.95 burger.
Bro,
Is this a coastal place?
Hey men, can you just cut the shit with the fucking bacon stunts, please?
I want to know how tall this burger is.
I am so charged about my food opinions. It's not even funny. Like, I have
Why is
such an
there
issue.
bacon in the bun?
I don't know.
We didn't kill enough animals to make this burger. We had to shove some in the bun, too.
This does feel like somebody dated a vegan for a semester of college and was like, revenge.
Is this one of those burgers where it has, like, the fucking stick in it with, like, a slider and chicken wings and bullshit, too?
Oh, I don't know. I've got to figure out how to try to steal this burger because I'm not paying $19 for it.
Sign up for a birthday promotion. Oh.
I'm going to have to go over the counter. Okay, Alice.
Hi.
Tell me, burger or album? City baby attacked by rats.
Album. Easy.
That's correct. Do you want to try for the bonus point on the artist?
I can't remember the artist.
I just like to imagine a world in which there was a burger called the City Baby attacked by rats.
That world is Bob's Burgers.
Who is the artist?
It is the punk band GBH or Charged GBH. They were Charged GBH when this album dropped.
Okay.
So they're an English band. That dropped in 1982. I also have these details on the album. I just haven't been saying them. Over to Brian. Your item that is set before you. Raw Power.
Raw Power. Is this Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, it's actually an anime. There's a curveball in here.
There's a secret third option.
Anime.
Punk is anime anyway.
It's true.
Burger.
Unfortunately not. This is an album. Alice, would you like to try to get a point by guessing the artist?
The Stooges.
Yes, that is correct. So Alice gets a bonus point on that one.
Oh man, the Stooges were never in my wheelhouse.
Back over to Alice. Meat or Punk? After School Special.
I want it to be a burger. I'm going burger.
That's correct. It is a burger. Would you like to make a guess at the price?
Give me the ingredients. Give me them condiments.
This is a burger from King's Hardware. This is peanut butter, bacon, lettuce, and tomato on a beef patty.
I try it.
Peanut butter on burger, actually very good. Everyone should try it.
I believe you. I respect all women.
$11.
I wish I lived in your beautiful world. This is a $16.95 burger.
Do you have a Culver's burger on here? Some real Midwest American burgers that cost $5.95?
Do you hate America or do you have a Culver's burger on here?
If there's not a butter burger?
I told you at the jump, the game is it the name of an overpriced burger or a critically acclaimed punk album?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Brian's.
Brian, over to you. The item placed before you, Midnight at the Oasis.
Oh, I feel like this is one of those ones that's gonna get me because I'm gonna feel so stupid. I'm gonna say Punk.
That's incorrect. Alice, would you like to try to guess at the price? When I tell you that this is a burger from Mean Sandwich, it has shop-made falafel, hummus, harissa beets, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Persian pickles with lettuce, and house white sauce, or you can sub dairy-free tahini.
That sounds so
That actually sounds pretty good.
That sounds so fucking good, y'all.
But
I'm
also
hungry.
just makes me want a falafel wrap.
Yeah,
$13.
Alice, how much? You get a bonus point.
Let's go.
Because for once in our fucking lives, this burger is only $14.
Jesus Christ.
So you are...
Bro, I was about to say that's too many ingredients with a CE. I did not think it was gonna be that. And again, if Katsu Burger was good, the Tokyo Classic would also be an incredible bargain. Unfortunately, Katsu Burger is not very good. I'm gonna cut that because I don't want to literally beef with Katsu Burger.
I'll beef with Katsu.
You beefing on Katsu Burger, bro?
Okay, Alice.
Hi.
It's placed before you. Life on a Plate.
Punk album.
Can you give me the artist for a bonus point?
I cannot give you the artist because I do not remember it.
I would have been baffled if you could, but maybe you were in there. This is an album released by Swedish punk band Millencolin, which I also hope I'm pronouncing correctly, in 1995.
Jesus.
Brian, with our last one, it's placed before you. Double Nickels on the Dime.
Fucking punk album. This is not what I thought. I thought I was gonna be better at this.
Correct. Would you like a bonus point if you can guess the artist?
Fucking no. Let Alice have a point if she knows.
Alice, do you know the artist on Double Nickels on the Dime?
I'm just gonna say The Police. Let's just throw out a random ass band.
Nope. Double Nickels on the Dime was an album by American punk outfit The Minutemen, released in 1984. And that is the album that prompted the real heart of this game because Double Nickels on the Dime absolutely sounds like an old-timey code for...
Double Nickels on the Dime is like, yeah, 2 sardines in a can, double nickels on the dime, and they like bring out with like a pizza with crawdads on it, and it's like, what the fuck is this code that you have?
Double Nickels on the Dime actually costs $10.
So, just eking it out. Just barely crossing the finish line. Alice, you won that one.
What do I win?
I'm humiliated. I don't think I've ever won one of these.
You won last time.
Yeah, you did. You won last time.
You trounced me last time.
Oh, I did?
You did.
You've already forgotten your W's. That's why they seem like L's.
Damn, that's poetry.
That's nothing.
No, that's poetry.
Nothing.
I win. My prize is all of these burgers. Unfortunately, all of them have dairy-based mayonnaise sauces on them, so I cannot eat them.
They all either straight up dairy sauce, meat, or it's just mid because it's from Red Robin. But at least, you know, Brian, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing Alice is going to pass away immediately from being within a 5-foot threat radius of the fatted sow.
Fatted sow?
God awful fucking burger.
The fatted sow is stacking debuffs on Alice right now.
I just can't deal with
the fucking fatted sow.
I mean, like, that's something I'd want to be called in the bedroom, not a sow.
No!
Oh my god, a flash transmission. Let's move on from that statement.
We have received a flash transmission. Deeply important. It even contains an image, which I haven't seen enough Gundam to know if that's possible.
I hope you know that a flash transmission is a type of communique.
I do, but I didn't know if it had images.
We'll talk later.
Okay, this is a flash transmission from someone, name withheld, may or may not have given birth to me. Any suggestions on where I can get one of these units? I'm packing, and my stick just isn't cutting it. And attached is an image of Sigourney Weaver and aliens driving the loader bot, which I forgot when I accidentally kind of made that a running bit in this episode. Where are we getting our mechs? Where are y'all sourcing them? Because this game poses some interesting ideas about where you would source a mech if, say, you wanted to build a replacement body for yourself.
So I guess there's a couple of options here, but for that specific model, so there's a couple of steps involved. Number one, you have to become an employee of Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Number two, you have to be shipped to a far-off space station that is mysteriously having people disappear from it. And number three, you do have to rescue a small child to unlock this as a character unlock. It runs by video game mechanics. So I would say, realistically, in your life, play Alien Isolation to completion, and you probably have a chance, or just go down to your local Harbor Freight or Tractor Supply. I think it's between the mowers and the ditch witches. What about you, Brian? What would you suggest for locally sourcing a mech or powered suit?
So here's what you got to do is you got to go and find the right kind of canyon so that you can locate and trap a skyfish. Now, what this is going to do is allow you to plate your mech's flying surfboard in the right reflective material to enable it to fly on the light particle waves that are present in our planet's atmosphere. So, as long as you can do that and find a skyfish, which has questionable moral standards because we don't really know how sentient they are, but do that, and there will probably be other people there doing the same thing, so like just hang out with them. Because as we all know, the best way to make friends is to build a mech together. Oh. That was nothing, but the plot of Eureka 7.
I was wondering, I'm like, you know, you're talking a lot about fish and waves. I think it's important for you to know that my mom can't swim. So I was getting worried.
No. It's in the sky, though. It's in the sky. It's flying. Your mom can fly.
My mom can fly. That's not a problem.
Important note for the listener. Your mom can fly.
It's true.
I've seen it. Well,
what about you, Nico?
This feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest to be betraying like podcast trade secrets to immediate family members. But if you can find someone not with my type of ADHD, but like a cooler kind who is just digging around in the meat piles by the side of the road that we've all seen. I know you've lived in the Hell Zone for a long time, so you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, find the cooler ADHD nerd digging through the meat piles, adopt him, you're good at that, and he will build you a machine that can, I'm rereading the email, stack boxes in a U-Haul, which is the use case of this mech. Well,
is this not to fight other mechs and or aliens?
You don't need a U-Haul if you're just flying from one house to the other. Hello.
Yeah, but you do if you need to take all your stuff, Brian. God.
Put the fucking skyfish material on your stuff, too.
Well, I hope that was that wasn't helpful, but I hope this gets easier and that someday SAG-AFTRA reaches a deal and we can just get this mech, because the easiest way to get this mech is to rob a warehouse in Hollywood, I assume. So.
I have bad news, guys. They are actually making these now.
Are they?
That sounds like great news. Yes.
Yeah.
The bad news is that they're for cops.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck this Earth. Kill Fash. Anyway.
Kill Fash.
Yeah.
That has been this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants, where we discussed extreme meat punks forever. Any parting thoughts?
I'm gay and I want to kill Fash.
I'm AFAB, but it means all Fash are bastards.
That's the one.
That's beautiful. Thank you for listening. Pilots, remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can catch up with us on social media. The links are in the description for updates and more. Make sure to check back next time when we'll be discussing Price of Smiles. Until then, goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you.
Hello? Brian's in the meat. Oh God, we gotta get Brian out of the ribcage.
Oh God, he's in the ribcage again. Oh God. Oh God. There's meat everywhere.